Good morning, everyone. My name is Jamie Castles. I'm the President and Vice Chancellor of the University of Victoria, and I want to welcome you and thank you for joining us this morning to celebrate a very important step in a very important process. I'm speaking to you from the campus of the University of Victoria, which is on the traditional lands of the Lekwungen people. And it's a great honor for me to introduce Councillor Gary Sam of the Songhees Nation to provide a welcome to the territory. Gary, thank you very much for joining us.
It's great just here. Asa Sequilipton, Chisalay at Sedat, Lekwungen. Hechka, Quensanea, Techel, Lekwungen Tango. Good morning. First of all, I'm introducing myself as Sequilipton. That is my traditional name and my honor to carry. It is also my honor to be here this morning to welcome each and one of you here to the traditional territories of the Lekwungen people, today known as Songhees and Esquimalt. I want to acknowledge my Saintnish family as well for the territories that we're on. And it is also my honor to introduce next Melanie Mark to come up to the podium.
Thank you, Councillor. Good morning, everyone. Simgaget, Sigidamanak, Gibit Wiltsuk. Thank you for following protocol and welcoming us from your nation to be on your territory, members of the Lekwungen peoples, the Songhees, Esquimalt and WSÁNEĆ. I'd like to acknowledge everyone else who's joining us here today in the middle of COVID and following protocols for our health and safety, and all the organizers for putting on this event, the media who are here today. I'd like to thank Jamie Castles, the President of the University of Victoria. Welcome to Dr. Val Napoleon, Director of the Indigenous Law Program and Law Foundation Chair of Indigenous Justice and Governance. We're also being joined over the phone by Carolyn Bennett, the Federal Minister, Crown Indigenous Relations, as well as Lindsay LeBlanc from the Law Foundation of BC. She's a Governor and Chair of Policy and Planning Committee. And last but not least, Laura Haversland, a student in the Indigenous Law Program. I'm Melanie Mark, the Minister of Advanced Education, Skills and Training. My Nisga'a name's Lahaikwiskak, which means eagle that passes on to the next generation. I come from the Eagle Clan. My village is in Laklozat. My people are from the Nass Valley, and I'm very proud to be Nisga'a, Gitxsan, Cree, and Ojibwe. I'm incredibly proud to be standing here to make this announcement as a First Nations Nisga'a woman, the first female First Nations member of the BC Legislative Assembly, and the first First Nations woman to serve in cabinet. And to remind members at home that it was only 4 years ago that I took my seat in the Legislative Assembly. So today marks an auspicious occasion, and this is why I'm wearing my grandmother's regalia. Because we are moving forward with an important step in history. 2 years ago, I was here in the fall with thousands of students on campus. It was a different time, but I was here at UVic to witness the first cohort of students who began a new journey in the joint degree program of Canadian Common Law and Indigenous Legal Orders, bringing life to Article 50 of the Truth and Reconciliation's calls to action, which calls on government to work with Aboriginal organizations to fund the establishment of Indigenous law institutes. That was a historic day, and Dr. Val Napoleon was with me, and so were students, faculty, and staff, and many champions for this cause. This program is the first of its kind in the world. Then in October 2019, our government supported the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples Act, another first of its kind in the world. I want to put into context. I was 7 years old when Section 35 of the Constitution was enacted, recognizing and affirming Aboriginal rights in the highest law of the land. When my grandparents were that age, They attended St. Michael's, Brandon, and Elk Lake. For generations, our cultures and our laws, and even our children, were taken from us. Our traditional legal systems were dismissed, and yet we're here today. We are still standing. For decades, the legal profession was one off limits for Indigenous people. We weren't allowed to become lawyers. We weren't allowed to hire lawyers. It was illegal. So today, if you can take a moment to appreciate what I've seen in my life and how proud I am to be here at UVic, to think of those 26 students that were joining us to become the first cohort, to become the next generation of briefcase warriors that are going to make change. They're going to acknowledge and honor Indigenous laws, Indigenous government, Indigenous governance, environmental protection, and the things that we need to change to make that systemic change. First, we must recognize. And so with that, I'm so proud to be here today to announce with my colleagues, because paddling together is about partnerships, it's about working together. It's about putting your neck out, making choices. Government is about making choices. And the federal government, the Law Foundation, and our BC NDP government are working in partnership. We are investing $13 million to extend the Fraser Law Building, which is here, to have the National Center for Indigenous Laws right here at UVic. And I just want to pause for a moment for everyone to think about that. UVic is going to be home to the National Center for Indigenous Laws, which is Reconciliation Call to Action, Article number 50. So I want to congratulate and thank Dr. Val Napoleon right now and President Castles and everyone who has made that moment possible, because we can't dismiss that. I just want to give you a round of applause. I know with COVID, we're not clapping much and we're not hugging much, but this is a historic moment for the university and for the next generation of people like me that may be able to take a seat in the table. And maybe after politics, I may become one of those students just to shake it up a bit over here. I just want to close by emphasizing that we can make change when we work together. And we can make change when we invest in structures like this. Think about the government policies that invested in creating the residential schools. And today, in 2020, we are investing in a National Center for Indigenous Laws. It is a call to action. I want to honor Senator Murray Sinclair and his leadership and his sacrifice. And I want you to think about my grandparents and my children and the future that they deserve. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Hawa, Tuxism. And with that, I am back. I'm sorry, this COVID media thing is a bit challenging. I apologize. I would like to introduce our next speaker, who is joining us from home, from her traditional territory, Lindsay LeBlanc from the Law Foundation of BC. She's a governor and chair of Policy and Planning Committee. She is joining us by phone. Thank you very much. Please welcome her.
Thank you. I hope you can all hear me. I wanted to start by acknowledging the traditional lands that I have been invited to as a former student of UVic Law, and where the new center will be located. I wish I could be with you all today. I'm a proud Métis woman, and if I had been there, you would have seen me proudly standing in my Métis sash. The Law Foundation of BC is proud to support the vital work at UVic Law and to support the recovery and resurgence of Indigenous legal orders across the continent. This is work that the Foundation has been proudly funding for many years. When the opportunity came to become the first donor for this new National Center for Indigenous Law, the Law Foundation and the governors around the table were thrilled to dedicate resources in order to help realize this vision. The Law Foundation is thankful that the governments of Canada and of British Columbia have stepped up in a major way by joining in the funding of this project. Through Ministers Bennett and Mark, we thank both governments for recognizing the importance of the work that is done here at the University of Victoria in support of the resurfacing of Indigenous law. This centre will cement the role of UVic scholars as global leaders, partnering with Indigenous communities and people seeking to articulate and apply their laws to contemporary challenges. It will foster future generations of scholars and practitioners dedicated to this work, and it'll highlight the national and global importance and prominence of work in Indigenous law. The project of developing genuine legal pluralism in Canada will take much work and many years. It will need present and future generations working on it to recover laws that had been suppressed for generations. This centre will be here for that work, and the Law Foundation of BC is very honoured to have been asked to be a part of its creation and to be contributing $5 million towards its success. Thank you very much, and thank you for allowing me to attend via telephone. I'd like to hand it over now to the Honourable Carol Bennett, Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations from the Government of Canada.
Thank you, Lindsay, and for the commitment of you and your organization. And so, hello, bonjour, Isuela. It is my pleasure to join you from here on my beloved Georgian Bay, the traditional and treaty territory of the Anishinaabe people, now known as the Chippewa Tri-Council, comprised of Beausoleil First Nation, Rama First Nation, the Georgina Island First Nation, but as well the traditional territory of the Huron-Wendat and the historic homelands of the Métis. I wish I could be with you on your campus, on the traditional territory of the Lekwungen people, and we thank Councillor Gary Sam for welcoming us and reminding us of the ongoing relationship that is nurtured with the Songhees, the Esquimalt and the WSÁNEĆ people. I also just want to say thank you to Minister Mark for her absolutely poignant remarks that really do ground us in the work that we need to keep doing together. I do remember the beautiful ceremony of last year, but of course, especially remember the important conversations with the JD students, challenging and important. And I loved Minister Mark's comment about briefcase warriors that we know will take Canada down a much better path. But always the inspiring teachings of Dr. Napoleon and Dr. Burroughs and their ongoing wise counsel. J'espère que je pourrai me rejoindre à vous bientôt pour poursuivre mes apprentissages et favoriser le renforcement de nos relations. I have to say, ever since I first heard the idea of a national center for Indigenous laws, I knew how important it was going to be for Canada on our shared path of reconciliation and the path to self-determination for Indigenous nations. Our government is so proud to be a partner with the University of Victoria's National Centre for Indigenous Laws, that centre that will serve as a foundation for public education, learning, debate, and partnership on the revitalization of Indigenous laws. Les investissements de budget 2019 contribuent à faire avancer le travail nécessaire que vous faites au profit des peuples autochtones et de tous les Canadiens. En travaillant ensemble et en investissant dans les initiatives comme celle-ci, nous jetons les bases sur la reconstruction des nations sur la base de leurs propres pratiques et coutumes juridiques, alors qu'elles établissent une nouvelle relation avec le Canada. From the curriculum of the first of its kind joint degree program to the design of the building, this center will project inclusion and diversity. The National Center for Indigenous Law will research, recognize, and promote the importance of revitalizing Indigenous legal systems in Canada and that legal pluralism that we are learning about from the scholars that are there at the University of Victoria. I look forward to witnessing and sharing with all Canadians the developing growth of the National Centre for Indigenous Laws, as well as the impact I know it will have in the years to come. As Minister Mark said, this centre is an essential step towards the fulfillment of various Truth and Reconciliation Commission's call to action, especially number 50. And as we paddle together on this journey of reconciliation, thank you, merci, Haichapka. And now it's back to President Castles.
Thank you very much, Minister Bennett, and Minister Mark, for your comments. I want to start by reiterating those thanks and some of my appreciation. First to Councillor Gary Sam for his welcome to the territory, but I want to express my deepest gratitude to Minister Mark and the Government of British Columbia, Lindsay LeBlanc and the Law Foundation, and Minister Bennett and the federal government. I am deeply appreciative of your leadership, your generous support, and for championing the National Centre for Indigenous Laws to help it grow from a vision to a reality. Without the support of those partners, we would not be here today. As several of the speakers have said, the centre is a very direct response to a number of the calls to action of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, most specifically Call to Action 50, which is to support the resurgence of Indigenous law. Which lays the foundation for at least one element of the pathway to reconciliation. I say with some humility as a non-Indigenous person that reconciliation means different things to different people, and I humbly understand reconciliation as a process for remaking the way in which we live together on this land, and shaping a new and different kind of future that is characterized by respect, inclusion, and equal justice. And it seems to me that reimagining the legal fabric of this country is absolutely essential and a key element to understanding that and facilitating that process. The research and teaching that will occur at the centre will have a transformational impact on individuals and communities across Canada and indeed around the world. It will play a vital role in helping to grow a more just and inclusive Canada, socially, economically, and legally. We are continuing to work with our partners across Canada and the local community to ensure that the project is developed in a collaborative way and meets the highest standards of sustainability. As part of the design process, we're working with the Songhees, Esquimalt and WSÁNEĆ peoples on whose historical territory we meet today, and whose relationship with these lands will help to guide us in ensuring spirit of place and best practices in stewardship. So I look forward to continuing to work together with government and the Songhees, Esquimalt and WSÁNEĆ communities on this very exciting project. So thank you, everyone, again, for your continued support of the University of Victoria as we strive to play a leading role in fostering respect and reconciliation and mutual understanding. It's now a real pleasure to call upon Val Napoleon, the Law Foundation Chair of Indigenous Justice and Governance and co-founder of our Indigenous Law program. Her leadership, her vision in moving us to this day is truly extraordinary, and I'm deeply grateful to Val for that leadership. Val, over to you.
What a day. Thank you to Councillor Sam for his words and the welcome to these lands, and to our champions, Melanie Mark, and to Carolyn Bennett, and to Lindsay LeBlanc at the Law Foundation of British Columbia. It's such an amazing time to be here. So this National Centre for Indigenous Laws, it's going to house all of this work that has been going on for some years, and it's going to build on that work in a way that reaches out to people across Canada. It's also going to house the JID, our Indigenous Law program, as well as our Indigenous Law Research Unit and the Environmental Law Centre. And it's going to be integrated with the rest of the law school in a way that is going to be really, really important for the whole law school and for the whole university. What I love about this moment, about this building, about this National Centre of Indigenous Laws, is that it's a continuation of a dream that started almost 300 years ago. I want to explain this. About 270 years ago, my relatives started a long journey from Eastern Canada. We were, and still are, Saulteaux, Cree, and Mohawk. Our Saulteaux prophecy was that there were two mountains and a lake in the valley below. We understood that these mountains were going to be a sanctuary for us, for our peoples, where we would be safe from the destruction of colonization. Those same mountains are known in English as the Twin Sisters. They are in the lands of the Danizaa people in northeast British Columbia. The Danizaa have their own oral histories about those mountains and that lake. And it's known in their oral traditions also as a place of safety, a sanctuary. So it's this aspect of sanctuary that I want to emphasize here. It's the idea of sanctuary that I want to apply as a metaphor for this building. A metaphor of a justice sanctuary for our teaching of Indigenous laws and for our students. That's what this physical structure represents. Centuries of dreams of Indigenous peoples, a place where our laws will enable us to be peoples and to be safe, where our laws will be taught, thereby continuing to create a sanctuary in today's world. My colleagues and I are so grateful for the support of our champions, Minister Mark, Minister Bennett, for the Law Foundation. And I'm also grateful for my colleagues here at the law school who supported this initiative, who supported this dream. And I'm grateful to past and present deans of our law school. And of course to the university and to President Castles for unfailing support for this vision. We have amazing students, both Indigenous and non-Indigenous. And they're taking their legal educations from this place of sanctuary on new journeys. In doing so, they're continuing to create the worlds of Indigenous law. So this is about ancient and new dreams. They're going to be woven into this building. And of course, what we know is that Indigenous law is the foundation for a multi-juridical Canada, and Canada will be a better place for it. So we've launched this national engagement initiative to raise awareness and to involve others in thinking about what's possible and joining us in creating a place for the work of Indigenous law, the continuing work of Indigenous law. So we'll be talking with people from Indigenous communities, from Indigenous organizations, and all other people who care about what happens to Indigenous law in our future Canada. So stay tuned for that work because it's ongoing. Now, it's also my pleasure to introduce our student, our second-year student, Laura Haversland. She is Teslin Tlingit from Teslin. Her spouse and daughter are both Champagne and Ajiac First Nation members, and they're born and raised Yukoners. In 2019, they decided to locate to Victoria so that Laura could start her journey into the Indigenous law program. She, of course, as with many of our students, had a very busy life before law school. She brought with her experience and a history of working with the Council of Yukon First Nations, and we're very proud to have her as one of our students here. So thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the introduction, Dr. Velvet Napoleon. I'd like to start to just say Minister Mark's words were very near and dear to me. I appreciate the strength you have, and also want to thank you, Councillor Sam, for the words of acknowledgement. So as Dr. Napoleon mentioned, my name is Laura Hoversland. I don't necessarily have a Tlingit name, but I've been given permission to introduce myself as Yenyeri Shah, which means wolf woman, as I'm a member of the Wolf Clan from Teslin Tlingit Council, from Teslin, Yukon. My mother is Tlingit and my father is Norwegian. So I've been raised in two worlds, one that comes with historical traumas, and then one that gave me the opportunity and confidence in achieving my academic goals. And both have given me unbelievable strength, of which I hope to be passing on to my daughter. I'm going into my second year of the JD-JID program. I chose the JD-JID because in the Yukon there are 11 out of 14 Yukon First Nations that are self-government. Teslin Tlingit is one of them. This degree will help First Nations by integrating both First Nation laws and Canadian laws into daily matters that include criminal, property, and constitutional law, just to name a few. This degree will change the legal system and change the practice of laws, particularly in how the justice system will address First Nation laws and identify the importance of them because they've been in place for hundreds of years. The JD-JID program is a difficult one. People who are genuinely interested should have some knowledge, but also an open heart to the long history of First Nations and the systems that both historically and currently are in place and how they have governed us as First Nations people within a colonized system, a system that was actually never designed for us. This is an opportunity to put the historical First Nation systems first and how they can relate into the Canadian legal system. I'm grateful for the knowledge that I'm gaining and looking forward to applying that into my real life, the life that I again described as living in two worlds. So on that note, I would like to say goodness sheesh, thank you for inviting me to join in today, and I can then pass it back on to Minister Mark.
Great. Tuxiasm, thank you for that. And now we'll turn it over to our moderators. First, I just want to thank all the speakers for doing such an amazing and outstanding job. And I did not wear my waterproof mascara today, but thank you for your inspiring words and this historic day.